guys. It's your girl Shelly here, Rachelle Riveter, the mom, and you guys are watching O Face Wrestling. Look out for my episode.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I'm joined by Rachelle Riveter. So thanks for joining us today, Rachelle.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. I know you're going to be at the upcoming Mission Pro Wrestling, and I saw your name on the list. I was like, I got to reach out to her and do something. So yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. So you ready to get this started?
Yes, I am so excited.
Sweet. So first question I always have for all y'all. So what inspired you to become a professional wrestler?
So funny story. My dad actually watched it when I was younger. I used to call it like his soap opera, right? And I just grew up like a natural athlete, not necessarily thinking about like, oh, I want to become a wrestler, but just like I'm an athlete and I can do pretty much anything. And I was pretty much varsity since I was a freshman with all sports that I did. And I went to college doing track. So after I got done doing that, and you kind of like set into the real world, right? Like after you're done with college, you're like, oh, well, what do I do now? I was watching Total Divas and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. And so I looked at my dad and I was like, Dad, do you know wrestling? Do you know a school out here in Colorado? And he was like, oh yeah, someone that I work with goes to this like Rocky Mountain school. He got me the contact information, and within like the next day I called the owner and I was like, I want to do this.
Wow, yeah, that's actually like kind of crazy because like Total Divas, one of my friends, she runs a podcast as well, and she's a really big fan of Total Divas, Total Bellas, and she was basically saying how like a lot of people like drag that show and stuff like that, but she had brought up the fact that it got a lot of people who weren't wrestling fans in the wrestlers, and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool how, just it's a wrestling related show, but it's not wrestling, it's, the, what do you call it, on reality TV and stuff like that. So it has done a lot more than what, some people give it credit for.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of gave this like woman empowerment type thing, right? Because I feel like after that it was like a boom in like the women's wrestling industry, and like I felt like more women just felt like, oh, well, if they can do it, then I can do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And
So
I feel like that show debuted in, I think it was around like 2013-ish, somewhere around there, and that's kind of when the women's revolution was just about to get started. Like a lot of people say it started in 2015 with the Four Horsemen, but it really started in like 2013 with AJ Lee and Paige, and the Total Divas, they had their place in that whole era as well. So it's kind of like that was a part of the beginning, because guess what, AJ Lee was rivaling with the Total Divas too. So it's like it all worked out well.
yeah, and honestly 2013 was when I graduated high school. So that's when I was figuring it all out.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it goes. You have your dreams in high school, and then once you hit the real world, you kind of like realize, like, some people's like, oh, I got to do something. I wanted to be a baseball player when I was in high school, and when I hit the real world, I was like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna happen. So I got to kind of like find my path in life and stuff like that. But it's great that you're wrestling and doing all that now, because it's hard to get into the wrestling business. Like when I got back into wrestling in 2010, I never realized how many wrestling schools, wrestling promotions, and then wrestlers in general are out there. And it is a struggle to really climb the ladder in the wrestling business and to make a name for yourself, because of, how much competition there is. And then when it comes to the training, that's going to be like the next question I have for you too, is like the training is brutal from everything I've heard. My one friend, she wrestles and I work with her. I saw her the day after her practice that she had last Thursday, and she was in so much pain, could barely walk. Like, people will sit there and say, oh, wrestling's fake, it's fake, but no, you're really putting a toll on your body. So that being said, tell me how, your training process went, especially with, physically and all that.
So physically, okay, well, before I had a baby, physically, it was good. Like, like it hurt, right? I did not expect for myself to get as many bruises on my arms. I was sore in all the places that I never even thought I could be sore at. And you have to trick your mind from doing the opposite of what it normally does, right? And you have to overcome your fears, or else you can't do this. So before I had the baby physically, I feel like it was physically better, mentally harder, right? And I say that just because physically, like, I didn't have a baby, obviously, and like I could just go. But mentally, I wasn't as confident in myself. I wasn't as for sure in myself. And so I think at that time I wasn't necessarily, ready. But like after I had the baby, physically it sucked more. And physically my body was like, oh man, what are you doing, woman? But mentally, I'm way better just because I have become this different woman into the wrestling world. So for me, it was like, okay, yes, physically, I'm going to go through the bad bumps and giving myself a black eye with my own knee because I tried to do a front flip, right? Like, I'm going to go through all of that, but like mentally, I'm in such a great place that it's like the perfect time for me to start like shooting off.
Yeah, like I mean, like you said, like you were feeling pain in places that you never thought you could even, do it. And I don't want to feel that. Like I've heard even like, stories about how just like running the ropes, especially for like the first time, like it hurts. Like people don't realize how
It's
big it is.
bruises
Like,
under here.
exactly. So you had mentioned like it was worse, after you became a mom. So I do want to know too is like, because I've never interviewed a wrestler who was also a mom unless I just didn't know, because I get not everyone like really, puts it out there, but like how is it like to be a mom and a wrestler at the same time?
It's amazing. I have a little boy, and he gave me the confidence to like really step up and be a leader, right? And I feel like as parents we can go either way. We could go, the typical corporate way where we stick with our normal jobs and we work our way up and whatever, we send our kids to college, blah blah blah, right? Or as parents we can not be hypocrites and follow our dreams because we tell our kids to chase their dreams, and we could just go for it. And that's exactly what I do. And I feel like every single day I wake up with more of a purpose every single day, because when you wake up to have someone depend on you, it's not just about you, right? So when I go into the ring, it's not just about me, right? My son's going to watch this later. Do I really want him to see his mom get his butt kicked? No. But if I do get my butt kicked, then at least he knows that I really tried, right? So like, it's not all about me. Like, it's for my son too. And I think any mother in wrestling should embrace that, right? That's why I am Rachelle Riveter, the mom, because I'm setting that example for mothers out there that's like, okay, hey, yeah, you had a baby and things didn't work out the way you wanted to, but you're still a bad chick and you still can go 10 times, if not harder now, because you have another life that is depending on you. So it's amazing. I love it. It was the best thing that could ever happen to me.
I can imagine, like, I don't have a kid, so I don't know exactly how that feels, but I've heard a similar story to everyone. Like, it's like a blessing. And, you know, your son being able to, grow up and see you chase your dream is only going to motivate him as he gets older too, because being a professional wrestler or even like a baseball player, football player, it's not an easy task. And typically as a kid wanting that as a dream, it usually gets shot down. Like, like I mentioned, I wanted to be a baseball player growing up. My mom, shot down that dream so many times. And she wasn't lying with all the stuff that she would say, like how hard it is and all that kind of stuff. But that's not what you want to hear. And it can really discourage you and stuff like that. So, your son will see you doing this, and it's going to really, like I said, motivate him, seeing his mom do what you're doing and all, even if you're getting your butt kicked, like you said, you're still trying and all. So, I mean, that's really good. And I'm really happy that, you have that kind of mindset on, what you want to set, not just for yourself, but an example you want to set for your son.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I mean, it's an example for other women as well, right? Yeah, my son gets the best example because I'm his mother. But for other women who are, going through their low self-esteem or whatever, because there's a lot of mental things that come on with being a mother, right? Physically and mentally. And so even to be an inspiration for other mothers, like, dang, she didn't stop, she could have stopped anytime she wanted to, but she never did. And so, like, for me, that's the biggest thing, is to also show other women, just because you have a child, that doesn't mean that you have to stop either. Like, you can still do this. You have to make some sacrifices, yeah, but that's with any career that you choose.
Exactly,
What's
because I mean, a lot of people have that mindset, as far as like, in the wrestling business, that if you have a kid that you really can't have a career in wrestling, and that's not true. Someone like you can, really, inspire other women to be able to do both. Because, there's always the stories, and, WWE, like Ronda Rousey, an example, like she, wants to start a family and not wrestle again. And that's cool. Like, if you want to, kind of like, just, do that and not the wrestling anymore, I get it. But at the same time, you should be able to still follow your dream. And I see women do it, I mean, I've seen Mickey James, I know she's a mom. I think she has two kids maybe, or is it just one? But, she's still wrestling and on TV. And I know Taryn Terrell did it for a little bit as well. So it's great. I mean, it's more challenging, obviously, because I mean, someone has to watch the kid and all that kind of stuff. But it takes a lot of dedication and determination to do it. And like I said, I think that's really cool that you're doing both, and being a great mother and a great wrestler at the same time. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, it can show that you can have a relationship with your child and still follow your dreams. I mean, look at Lacey Evans. She has a daughter, and
Yeah.
she's out there kicking butt. One day I hope that I could be there right by her, MILF power. But it's not hard, and we just have to look within ourselves and go for it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I forgot all about Lacey Evans as well, because her kid was in one of the storylines too. I can't believe I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
But so the next question. So you're going to be on the upcoming card at Mission Pro Wrestling. So how did you and Mission Pro Wrestling, how did that come along?
So Mission Pro Wrestling, I got my friend Heidi, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, they want me, you, and Alan to all come out and wrestle. And I've gone to one promotion outside of Colorado. I went to Chicago for Shimmer. Yes. And honestly, it was the best experience ever. And so getting this opportunity again, I was like, oh yeah, definitely want to go out of town, especially too. It was like, okay, this is mommy's excuse to go out of town. So even better, right? And honestly, like, it just happened so quickly. They were like, okay, we need promo pictures. We're going to do custom matches. and it just happened so quick. And then I talked to Rosa, and she's actually amazing. She's the most wonderful woman that I've ever met in wrestling. And she made me feel even more excited to be a part of the promotion. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And like, you're not lying about Thunder Rosa. Like, she is a really sweet person. Like, she's been on the show twice, and both times were great. Like, the last time, recently when she was on the show, last week, me, her, and my co-host Brianna, we were chatting for like 10 minutes after recording and all that kind of stuff. Like, she's very down to earth. I love what she's doing with Mission Pro. It's not just an all women's promotion, but it's very diverse. She really cares about the women, and she really cares about, elevating them in the ring. It isn't kind of like a me thing. Like, she is all about, women's wrestling and making, women's wrestling taken seriously, because she mentioned on the podcast that a lot of people for years looked at women's wrestling as like the bathroom breaks, and they botched this, they botched that. Like, no, she wants to take women's wrestling to another level. And you kind of look at it like, women like her have been doing it for years. And there's like the women's evolution in the indies. Like, if you look at Thunder Rosa, and you gotta put her face on the Mount Rushmore for women's wrestling on the indies. So it's like, I like what they're doing at the end of the day, and I could see Mission Pro Wrestling like really being a huge like mega deal within the next 1 or 2 years. I mean, it's starting off really well. I know Hell Have No Fury did really well. Now Tournament Out of Hell, like, I'm really excited to see how well this does. And I mean, I know her with Robin Reed, it should be a great show.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and this is gonna be my first time out there, so I'm going to obviously give it my all. But this is just gonna be so cool, and just to be in that environment of such strong women, like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I'm jealous because I've never been to Texas, and you get to go to Texas, so yeah, I'm sure. I'm assuming it's gonna be fun. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Texas before, but it's one of my
uh,
dream spots. I want to go.
I've been to Galveston. Yeah, and like, I've never, I guess you would say, like, soaked up Texas, right? So this is going to be interesting. But, right, I have your info. I'll send you pictures. It'll be all good. It's like you're there, but like not there.
Exactly. Yeah, pictures are always good. I've seen a lot of pictures from Texas. It's very beautiful there. Big. I've always wanted to go in there and try their the steak, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, one day I'll make it there. Especially for, I would love to go for a Mission Pro Wrestling show as well. Like, it's like, why not?
Right? Absolutely. That means you have to come. It's going to happen.
Definitely one day. I mean, it gives me two reasons to go. Like, because I love traveling to go to wrestling events. Typically, I stay in like the DMV area, and lately I've been going to New Jersey a lot. In New Jersey and New York, I will say is a gold mine for wrestling, like with all the promotions and the wrestling events. WWE does a lot of meet and greets down there, so it's a pretty dope place to go. But yeah, Texas, it seems like it's a pretty popular place for wrestling as well.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to see how the crowd's going to be like out there too, because in Denver, Colorado, I mean, we can get some really hyped fans, right? But then we can also get some really mad fans. So it's going to be weird, because since it is like a big deal, I feel like it's going to be just crazy.
Exactly. Like, I mean, I don't know how many people they'll have because of COVID, but the one good thing is, like, it being an all women's wrestling event, you're going to get the fans there that love wrestling versus like a card that has mostly men, matches, and then one or two women, and they may not care for the women. That everyone who is there loves women wrestling, so that's good. You have the right audience there, so it should be pretty hyped there. I mean, all the fans that were at Hell Have No Fury, they were really into the show, so I don't expect anything less at this upcoming show.
Oh, yeah. And I have to pull out my best stuff too. So it's going to be so good, except okay, I'll try not like a couple times. But it was my moonsault. I just got to perfect that, and then we're in business.
Hell yeah. Like, I've seen a couple of your matches I looked up online prior to this interview, but this will be the first time I've seen you wrestle live, so I'm really excited to see what you can do.
Oh yeah, I don't disappoint.
Then I'm gonna hold you to that then. If
I
you do
know, right?
disappoint, you'll get a DM from me.
Perfect. I'll be waiting for it. It'll be great.
So now as for the next question, so in wrestling, what are some of your goals, dream opponents and all that kind of stuff?
Oh man. Okay, so dream opponent. This would be like the ultimate tag team fight, right? But if it was like, MILF, it was like a MILF fight, right? Where you had me and Becky, right? Because Becky's about to have her baby soon, and she's gonna just like snap back like that, right? I think we'd be an awesome MILF team. And then the Bella twins. Like that would just be
Ooh.
like so sick. I think MILF tag team ever. I think it would just be so much fun. With that being said, my wrestling career, I would obviously like to expand that, in the most healthiest way. And I say healthiest way because when you do decide certain career paths, right, you have to make certain sacrifices. And so I do think that in wrestling, you do have to make some sacrifices when it comes to family life, children time. But if I can create that balance, like I'm doing now, and continuing to take care of my family like I'm doing now, then I want to take it to the highest level that I most possibly can. WWE, that'd be pretty cool. If not, I mean, AEW would be a nice little slide in there. Me and Brandy Rhodes apparently look alike, so that'd be interesting.
I see it. I definitely see that resemblance now. But yeah, like WWE would be the most profitable, career. AEW is definitely not too far down, below them. I mean, they seem to be doing very well. From what I hear, they pay their wrestlers pretty well, and they also give a lot of their wrestlers, that the freedom to do a little bit, of stuff on the indies. So that would kind of be like the extra money kind of thing. I mean, there's definitely a lot of options. I mean, there's a lot of wrestlers who wrestle in the indies and actually do really well too. Like, you don't need to be in WWE or AEW or whatever, because if you're getting booked on a regular basis and your merch is selling well, and a lot of wrestlers on the indies who are pretty popular, they also have the Patreons and stuff like that. So there's a lot of way to make money on the indies, and the good thing about that is you make your own schedule. You can
Yeah.
take 1-2 months off if you wanted to. You could have the holidays off. That's the one, great thing about the indies. The only challenges is also getting the bookings. Some wrestlers, it could be a little bit more challenging than others. Just it depends on what booking promotions want you and everything.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, wrestling is your own business, right? It's you promoting yourself. You're an entrepreneur for you, right? So it's your own branding. How do you want people to perceive you? And I feel like I just now started to brand myself because I just started to figure out who I am, right? So I feel like if you don't know who you are, then it's really hard to kind of like put yourself out there. But if you do know who you are and you're confident in yourself, then it's easy.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to treat yourself as a brand, not a wrestler, because your brand is what is going to make you the money and, get you to popularity and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now my final question. Now this is kind of like the fun question. So what about you, non-wrestling related, would you want, fans and everyone to know about you? And you can't say working out because we all know wrestlers love working out. So
I actually am on the path right now with getting my life and annuities license with Denver, Colorado. I am on the path of becoming a financial and investments advisor, and my other second passion is helping families with their, investments, financial needs, debt elimination. So I'm like secretly like, really like financially savvy, and I have an actual, like, I'm not saying that you don't have a career outside of your career, right? But I definitely feel like I have a career outside of this career that's I can pass down to my child.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, yeah, you want to take wrestling as high as you can go, but the one, scary thing about being not just a professional wrestler, but an athlete in general, you never know when your last match might be. You might get a career-ending injury. It might happen at, Mission Pro Wrestling. I doubt it, and I don't want to put that on you, but I'm saying, like, you never know when you might get that injury. Wrestling is not something that you could do your whole life. There are some wrestlers who try to push it, Ric Flair being one of them, but it's something that you need to be smart with because, wrestlers who do try to push it and keep going, they will have those long-term, health issues, like Mick Foley, you see him and he walks with a hunch now. And, it's good to set yourself up, for life after wrestling, or even have that, a career and a job right then and there too, because like I said, it's a smart thing to do. And the fact that you're in like the whole financial career field, that's really cool. Me personally, I need help with that because I'm not the best with my money. I kind of just spend it on all. So people like me need you. So it's glad that we have people in jobs like you.
Yeah, I can help you guys with your needs. I help you entertain, and then I help you with your finances. It's like both.
So tell me a little bit, like, what goes into that? Like, what kind of stuff do you do, like, to help people out with that?
Oh, man. Well, first you have to get your license in life and annuities, right? Which there are some states that are harder than others. Colorado's definitely been a challenge. And it's like life policies and life annuities and stuff like that. All of that's the same, but like the timelines of things are different. So that is a challenge. And testing, I am a very I'm a kinesthetic learner. I have to do things, and testing is not my forte. Like being sat in front of a computer, in front of uh, a paper, and have to like be examined on my knowledge of like what's on this paper. Terrifying, but I'm getting over it. But it's terrifying, but I'm improving, right? But like, um, yeah, but like everything else, you have to like one with families. You sit down and you have appointments with families. Which is really nice because most of the time, finance is such a sensitive thing that we forget to talk about. And they don't even teach you that in school, right? Which they should, because they teach you everything else in life besides finances, besides how to build credit, you know? And so when people go out into the real world, they end up just kind of honestly falling on their butt, and they learn the hard way. And it's like, I mean, you kind of have to go in with this is people are trusting you with their investments, with their, I mean, sometimes it's not, it's an insecurity to talk about your finances, right? So it takes a lot, but I love it. It's me helping others and educating others, and it's just something I love to do.
And that's true. Like I really wish they would, have some kind of like class in high school that teaches you about finances. I do remember in middle school, I think it was our math class, they taught us how to write checks. But obviously that's not really like as popular as a thing now that it was then. But yeah, that should be a thing because that's something we need in real life. Like they teach us all this algebra and all this like calculus stuff that you probably won't need, growing up, but then they don't teach you something that you actually do need. So it doesn't make sense, but I mean, who am I? I'm just trying to
Yeah, it definitely it kind of makes you like angry as you go through it because you're like, really, we learn like what a box circumference is, but we don't learn like how to get a house.
Exactly. Like I get learning basic math that adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying, but we like this whole A2 plus B3 and all that just weird stuff. It's like unless you're gonna be like a scientist or something like that, you do not need that. Like it's mind boggling how the school system works.
Yeah, very unnecessary.
But I mean, Rochelle, that wraps up all the questions I had for you. So I just have to thank you. This was definitely a very entertaining and educating episode.
Thank you so much for having me. For those who want to look me up, you can look me up at Rachelle Riveter on Instagram for wrestling, and then personal side, right? Rachelle Shield is my Instagram, and Twitter at Rachelle Riveter as well. So you can find me for your finances or your entertainment.
Yeah, make sure you all look her up on social media. Also, look us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Sub us on YouTube. Just search O Face Wrestling on all the platforms. And thank you all for tuning in. And one last thank you to you, Rochelle, for joining us today on O Face Wrestling.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you all for tuning in. Check out our next episode next week.